Story 1 Return when found the first time arrow left was most definitely on a Friday. That much I know. I do remember looking down at the startle D woods in the distance, a figure flickering through them. There was no figure, of course. It was just there in the same sense that he was an obscene, fragile absence on a cluttered background. Who was he to me by this point? Well, he was probably something I should have been more afraid of. But then he was an enigmatic force of familiarity with this undidactic, uncanny fire that made my transparency feel acceptable. I hope this is what it was. All you really need to know is what he became. What's that? I guess a calling card, or an ever-incomplete story doubling back on itself, creating a future that narrates the past. You know, I don't really feel that way now, but my fixation on him was something comparatively brazen and alluring. I hardly noticed when he first came to me. He was still only partially real, a construct wearing a name and a face. Untethered to my psyche, I wish this was how I remembered him, as a human artifact of compression. This is the ideal form for all people, I think. He entered with an understated silence and sat just off to the side of me, playfully pointing his perception at the words I wasn't singing. I was playing everything too. Nothing by Manchester Orchestra. I wasn't supposed to be there, you see. This is why I think I wrote my own undoing. Because, you weren't singing some words, yes and no, precisely. What? Don't concern yourself with that. The answer wouldn't be satisfying or nearly as arbitrary as you hope. Okay, the song murmured through the grit-caked convictions of the strings, a voice from the past singing the words. You mean everything to nothing. That's right, you mean everything to nobody to me. You might wonder how someone could simultaneously exist as a state of value and a critical measurement of it. I suppose I once did without realizing it, and the manner that it was immense, but only briefly noticeable. But when I looked into Arrow's sprawling blue eyes, I understood he was not much different from a seizing paradox, except that he was the opposite. Did I ever end up telling you the lake house story? Yes, several times, the one with the Dahmer ex-boyfriend. I, of course, was not dating the actual Jeffrey Dahmer, but that remains to be how I picture him, his character, definition, imprisoned behind aviator glasses. Yeah. Sorry. Why did you send me that message? Did you think I wanted to hear your voice? What? No, I guess metaphorically it was an attempt to preserve a moment happening somewhere in my mind. But I was very drunk. I met Chris Angel's cousin that night, you know. I know that I was drunk or that I met Chris Angel's cousin. I don't remember. If it weren't for my commentary, you'd be nothing, just an ever-shifting presence in the form of a shadow. I sure wish I was nothing. The type of person who says that doesn't usually believe in superstition. Normally, they would believe in something like true love, that fucking penny. My focus somehow drifted from the penny. It was simply the copper-colored approximation of his fear, which I was used to. But the rather shy, smudged Scotch tape pressed to the face of the small holiday gift box stood out immediately. It was perplexingly the most ordinary and uncouth thing adorning it, fingerprinted and stuck to itself at one end. To this day I am disturbed by things that feel momentously ordinary, as if they only adhere to clean, dry nostalgia. The box was wrapped in holographic green paper, which did not burn very well. and was give into me under the pretense of an empty hallway with others. At the end, looking away, inside was an instrument of fate, as Arrow believed in practice. Between us there was an understanding that there was a knife in the box. He understood this because of the penny. I understood it because the only thing more palpable to me than his fear was my responsibility in shielding him from it. I then wondered if it were possible to be a person as a form of residue. I later grasped that this was foolish, along with sentimental destruction. Though I do wonder what would have happened had I catastrophized differently, only you would try to make worrying a reflective state. Well, I still don't know why the letter disappeared the second time, but what scared me most is how it resisted erasure the first time. You were very drunk. That never surprised you, just that once, I guess so. I still think it was winter in an analogous sort of way. The roads were not snowy, but untouched in the same way. How could you remember that? I was there. I'm surprised. Tonight I am the best I'll ever be. Becca, use I have a chance to be half of you. The first line used to be tonight. I stress tonight. I must have altered it because I felt the anticipation of being held accountable for loving, awkward hands, a wet grip of sweat, a pigeon wrenching a worm from the ground. The relentless thudding of anticipation turns me stale, unnaturally sweet. Hello crawls up my throat. You nod, He next thing I remember was in one of the darker parts of the road. The headlights sprayed a fuzzy stream of light over the grayish pavement and static grass. I remember the roads being covered with snow, all still painfully blank. The roads were not snowy, but untouched in the same way. We were not talking, but I was thinking about lying. I feel split by my own perception, sometimes a particle wave existence for a particle wave being. I suppose I'll summarize the letter here. Dear Judith, I know it has been a long time since I last wrote, and if I know you probably thought I forgot. I did think he forgot. It was one of those times where I had become a hopeless catalyst with idealist motivations once again. But when he compared himself to a Magic 8 ball, it was the world's worst Magic 8 ball. Actually, well, how the hell would I know? I was never sure exactly how a Magic 8 ball would be subjected to such scrutiny, as if to imply one omniscience were of a higher value than another. Shortly after the letters stopped coming, while I was very drunk, I took a pair of scissors to each envelope, eviscerating the notes like I could somehow sever the meaning from the words and stow that away behind my dresser instead. You don't even remember what they said. You'd think that. Boo. No. Actually, it's much worse. Well, I guess it's not much worse than before. Capable people stand in the craters, meeting there to discuss the insides of our chests, us darker disciples. But I am not afraid of what I'll become when water no longer sings like in the wild. It is a civilization, planned obsolescence. First the scathing truth in your voice, now a candid heartbeat, a wee heathered lighthouse. I beg, please save me from the cold. Small children created the world, native only to his breath, but sorrow from his empty lungs would have been enough. When yearning became the beginning and resumed once more our hearts and tragedy's subtle blush, somewhere there was a deviation, a small silvery voice under the cover. Underneath was the story of the world that spoke desirable lies and ruined me. Becoming you blame poisons the present rewrites our first times together and calls us new. I can't escape my life being someone, but our plan to find you there in the craters, softly speaking, and close the loop before time has elapsed and it starts once again. With us, and the sky no longer blue, I though, out of that last line when I was on a walk in the woods, my thoughts took a wind-like shape, dispersing the leaves in a flurry of inconsequential truth. Story to late-night caller Allen, do you still love me? The whiskey glass leaps from my hand and explodes on the floor, but I barely notice. The phone is tight against my ear. Lucy, wait. Double quotes. I stop myself, embarrassed at my own stupidity. Allen, you're a goddamn defense attorney. Act like one. Why did you leave me out here? Here, Allen, where it's so cold over the phone. Wind is blowing through trees. I know how bitterly cold it is out there, hours after getting home. My swollen red toes are still itching and tingling. Every muscle aches from dragging her through snow for what seemed like an hour. Untie. I spotted a dense copse of trees. I was alone out there, in no man's land, amidst 1,000 square miles of empty forest land. By then her skin was ice cold, her cheeks hard to the touch. I positioned her beneath a dense cluster of bushes that scratched me up. Then I stood over her to catch my breath, regain my composure. God damn it. I'm sure she was dead. Who is this? I stammer, then swallow hard. I sound so lame. They'll figure this out. They'll find you. She continues, and I hear the liquid, suctioning movements of her lips, her tongue, like she's inside the phone, her mouth an inch from my ear, her lipstick-stained teeth nearly nipping my earlobe. Last week, her intimate eyes, her hot-out breath, her clever tongue aroused me for hours. Now her seductions stab me with dread. I feel sick. A wave of dizziness hits, and things start going black. I drop ass first to the floor to avoid splitting my head on the hardwood. Partway down, the cord tenses and jerks my phone from the end table. It crashed to the floor beside me, its metal bell ringing into silence. What's this about? I think you called the wrong all. And, ma'am, I don't sound very convincing. I press the phone harder to my ear until it hurts. Why does this chunk of bakelite suddenly feel so heavy? My hand trembles, and I struggle to keep my grip. Despot, my flannel robe and slippers and the roaring fireplace. I feel colder than when I got home. And is this really Lucy? Or maybe, yes, Betty, her roommate Betty. Relief floods through me. I have to call her bluff. Betty, do you know what time it is? I have closing arguments in just for hours. I'm not happy. Silly boy, she says. Betty went to bed hours ago. I try to recall the tone of her flatmate's voice. She was shy and hardly said a word. Our flats are 2 miles apart, both leased before Lucy and I met. She'd been living there with Betty for 5 years, to be close to work. I rented mine near the courthouse, and I lived here Monday to Friday. I only spent weekends at my official home with Emily at Chaseburn Manor. Tell me something on Lucy knows, I demand, or I'm hanging up. Did you do something to her? Harm her? What? Are you jealous of her? I'm feeling more confident now. Lucy's out there, stiff as a board. But I have to play this angle. Then I wonder, is Betty trying to blackmail me? I can't bear thinking of how to deal with that. Oh, I can tell you a lot of things that are just between you and me, lover. I can tell she's smiling, and my anger flares. She says, her tone playful. Where to start? There's wind again over the PH1, and then some kind of low-pitch animal noise. It sounds like a large owl hooting. There aren't any owls within miles of Lucy's flat. No, this call is coming from out there. Here's one. She says, you felt so guilty about bludgeoning me to death that you tucked my red scarf snugly around my neck to keep me warm, and you called me a fucking bitch when that sharp thistle scratched your cheek as you dragged my corpse into the trees. Ring any bells? I reach up to my face and trace my fingertip along the narrow, lightly scabbed scratch on my cheek. She's still smiling, I see, and then she chuckles. Did Betty follow me? Could she have been hiding in the back seat of my car? It was dusk by then, so I mightn't have noticed her. Could she have followed me in a taxi with the lights off because she suspected something? Go to bed, Betty, and leave me alone. Like always, you're delusional. I slammed the phone down, my heart racing. Then I clambered to my feet, being careful to avoid the broken glass. I have to call out sick tomorrow. It'll piss everyone off, especially Judge Myers, but there's no way I can face court. From my lick, your cabinet, I remove an unopened fifth of Old Forester, along with a clean tumbler. A minute later, I'm sitting on my velvet wingback and slugging back shots. I notice the phonograph perched on the middle shelf in the bookcase, so I stand awkwardly and walk over to it, my legs wobbly. That big band record is still on the platter. I switch it on and cue up the needle, the volume knob settle, and lo, I stand back and wait for Glenn Miller to distract. Emmy, it's so cozy here tonight, says a voice from the record player. Lucy, I pull the needle from the record with a ripping sound, then lower it again at the outer edge. After some cracks and pops, she says you'll wear out the needle. Just let it play while the two of us enjoy each other's company. And thanks for building up the fireplace. It feels so toasty in here, I'm speechless. This is the same goddamn record I played earlier today. As she continues her prattling, the volume begins to swell without me ever touching the cont. Rolls, I twist the volume knob back and forth to no effect. I don't want to wake the neighbors. Dear God, I cannot let them hear this. That's when I see my own breath condensing in small puffs, like it did outside. I should call Betty, too. Let her know I won't be home tonight. I hate her worrying for no reason. She's lovely, you know. Such a mother hen. Oh, and I'll call Emily, too. The woman whose fortune vaulted you into the ranks of the elite, the woman you promised you'd leave. For the last 3 years, I've always felt jealous of her. But fair is fair, and she need to get her ducks in a row for your trial. She must look out for her own best interests. Then I shatter, my resolve scattering like so many bits of crystal on the floor. I'll look to my kitchen. I remember Lucy making us breakfast, how she opened each egg with the dull edge of a knife. That's what she was doing, making us French toast. This morning, when we fought, what hour? And she gave me her ultimatum. Leave Emily or she'd ruin me. I'm shivering now. I feel myself slipping off the edge of a very tall cliff, beyond which there is no purchase, nothing to slow my fall. I wish this were a nightmare, a hallucination. Good God, Alan, you're the sanest man I know. This is all very real, I assure you. Now her voice is booming, so loud tea rattles an ashtray on the table. Fighting with my numb, stiff limbs, I struggle over to the wall outlet and jack out the record player's cord, but Lucy continues. Defeated, I stare hypnotized at the spinning record label as she drones on and on, my ears ringing. Then, despite all the booze in my blood, my veins turn to ice, and the lights go out. Epilogue. Clouds stream through a cold, gunmetal sky. Below, a snowy landscape dotted with clumps of trees extends to the horizon. A single-lane road, recently plowed, meanders across the vast expanse. Along its shoulders sits a black Mercedes cool. Show drifted halfway up the headlights, the driver's door and trunk hanging open. Two detectives in trench coats inspect the scene. They appear patient, methodical despite the morning. Numbing cold. 3 police cars sit behind the Mercedes, their engine idling to keep them from freezing in -30 degrees. A chaotic set of footprints, positioned at all angles and spacings, extends from the car and out across the landscape. They're sprinkled like pepper along the edges of a wide, deep gouge in the snow. 100 feet along the tracks, 2 uniformed head officers stand over a frozen body of a man wearing a light jacket. One of them stoops and points to a deep set of scratches on the man's face, visible on his upturned cheek. There's a shout from the distance, and both men look up as 2 more officers rush toward them. There's a body, a woman, almost a mile out. One of them says, while struggling to catch his breath, her head's bashed in. We need more guys out here. Smith is guarding the scene for now, but he's gonna freeze in an hour. Soon, all 4 officers are standing around the corpse. The man's skin looks pale and hard, frozen solid. The bastard sure was in a hurry. One of them says, didn't even think to bring a heavier coat. Still, after a mile out there and back, he was only 100 feet short. One of the officers remains with the body. The others join the detectives. Soon, one of them is on the radio in his cruiser. He requests more assistance, including the coroner, as he read off the information on the dead man's driver's license. Alan Poe, age 45, just checked his ID. A deep voice says over the radio's bursts of static, the newspapers gonna have a field day with this one. High-profile case. We'll send someone over to notify the wealthy widow. Outside the cruiser, a mile away in a dense stand of trees, a young woman lies frozen on her side, despite her twisted limbs, her bloody forehead. A bright red scarf is tucked close around her neck to keep her warm. Story 3. The thing beneath. I never really believed in monsters. I mean, who does? As a kid, sure, I had my moments. I'd swear I heard something breathing under the bed, or I'd run past the closet after dark like it might reach out and grab my ankle. But I grew out of it. My mom told me monsters weren't real, and my dad shined a flashlight under the bed like that was the end of the story. By 23, my fears had names like rent, overdraft fees, and Emily, who kept Venmoing me passive-aggressive emojis. I was living alone in a basement apartment that smelled like mildew and someone's idea of a cinnamon candle. It was barely 500 square feet and felt like it was held together with duct tape and sarcasm. I had a bed that sagged in the middle, a job that made me question the meaning of free labor, and the kind of insomnia that turns to a personality trait. That's when it started. It was a Thursday night, technically Friday morning. To 17 a.m. I was doom-scrolling Reddit on my phone and demolishing a sad bowl of dry sear. Yale in bed, the fan was on in the corner. Humming like usual, the lamp cast a soft glow that didn't quite reach the closet. I was halfway through a thread about sleep paralysis demons when I heard it, a grunt, not loud, not even sharp, just low, gritty, like gravel being rubbed together. I froze. My eyes flicked to the ceiling, then to the shadows along the walls. Maybe it was the pipes or the floor settling. Old buildings make noises, right? Then came the scrape. It wasn't the building, it wasn't normal. It was deliberate, rhythmic, like someone or something adjusting its position just out of sight. I slowly lowered my phone, heart beginning to thump in my chest. Another grunt, this time closer. Closer, and under the bed I sat up fast. My eyes scanned the floor, no movement. I told myself it was nothing, just a weird noise, a figment of tired nerves and too much sugar. Then I heard a click. I turned the closet door had cracked open. I always close the damn closet door. I checked it. It's a ritual left over from childhood. That door was closed when I went to bed, but now it was open, just an inch, just enough to drive my imagination into the deep and dark places I feared as a child. The air shifted. I stood up fast and crossed the room, my hand hovering over the doorknob. Heat rolled out from the sea rack, not the warm, comforting kind. This was sick heat, metallic, rotten, like someone had left copper pennies in the oven. The doorknob fell to cold, and then a voice, rough and abrasive, came from beneath the bed. "Oh, for the love of mucus, kid, don't open that," I screamed. Full-on horror movie scream. The bowl of cereal flew. I fell hard, elbow to floor, laptop crashed. I led like I'd been tased, and from under the bed, something groaned. The yellow eyes blinked at me from the darkness. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. All I could do was stare. Then the thing crawled out. It wasn't human, it wasn't even close. Shaggy, hairy, shadow-wrapped and dripping with claws and teeth and limbs that didn't seem to agree on a shared anatomy. It looked like a pile of nightmares that had agreed to cooperate for the evening. It dusted itself off and squinted at me. "You didn't know I was here?" it asked, like I'd somehow it. I could barely speak. "What are you?" it sighed. "I live under your bed. Genius, I've been guarding you since you were 6. Guarding me. From what?" It jabbed a claw at the closet. Him as if on cue. The door creaked another inch. I said the only thing that made sense at the time. "I need to lie down." "You were lying down," it said, sarcastically. "Then you flailed like a Muppet on fire." "I don't get it," I said. "You're not trying to kill me?" "If I were evil," it grumbled, "you'd already be a soup stain." The closet door rattled. The monster turned and growled. Not at me, at it. The thing in the closet froze. "I don't understand." I whispered, "There's another monster in there?" "Yep," the one under the bed said, "and he's a sicko. Feeds on guilt, shame, self-doubt. You've been giving him plenty lately. That hoodie you never wear, he loves it. Wasted potential. Delicious." I looked down at myself. "So you're protecting me?" "Yes, and doing a damn good job. Thank you." Who are you?" It paused. "You couldn't pronounce my real name, but you can call me Dave. Dave, short for Dravonak. Tsaro, but yeah, Dave. Then he sighed, crawled back under the bed, and vanished into the dark like a tired raccoon guardian angel. I sat there, staring at the closet. It creaked again. I kicked it closed and jumped back into bed. Here, tea pounding. Good night, Dave, I whispered. From beneath me came the faintest rumble. Sleep tight. And don't even think about that hoodie. Part 2. The closet opens. You get used to having a monster under your bed faster than you'd think. After the first few nights of heart-pounding dread and post-midnight therapy talks with Dave, things settled into a weird routine. I toss him granola bars, and he'd mutter unsolicited life advice like text your mom back, or she's not haunting you, dude. You're just emotionally avoidant, he snored sometimes deeply, like a chainsaw buried in laundry. Honestly, I kind of liked the company, but something had changed. I first noticed it when the closet started leaking heat again. Not warmth. Heat, the kind that made the skin on your arms prickle. Every night it was stronger. Dave grew quieter, more agitated. His claws twitched when he slept. Once, I swear I saw him sharpening a jawbone. Then, the 7th night, it was just past 3 a.m. I woke up with this icy dread slithering through my spine. The fan was off. The air was thick. I was sweating so hard my sheets clung to me. Lee kept plastic wrap. I felt like it was being watched, and the closet door was open, not cracked. Not slightly ajar, wide open. A chair lay splintered on the floor in front of it. White chair, the one I'd been jamming under the handle every night. I sat up slowly and shivering. Dave, I whispered. No response. Dave, nothing. The silence was wrong. I leaned over the edge of the bed and peeked underneath. He was there, but he wasn't right. Dave, my protector, was curled up tight, shuddering. His limbs were twitching, his eyes wide and blank. Black echo leaked from his ears. He looked drained, faded, like someone had vacuumed all the color out of him. Dave, what happened? He barely moved. His voice was a scratch in the dark. Don't look at it. That's when I saw it, and the closet. It didn't walk out. It unfolded like something unzipping from the darkness. Too tall, too many joints, too long. It moved like a puppet trying to remember how bones worked. Its skin shimmered, sometimes human, sometimes raw, sometimes wearing my own damn face. Its head was covered with twisted hangers bent into some mockery of a crown. It didn't speak with a mouth, it just was, and I heard it. He's gone soft. You're alone now. You belong to me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Me, guilt, fear. Every awful emotion I'd buried rushed to the surface. I saw every failure, every missed call, every regret wrapped around me like barbed wire. It touched my chest, and I sank, not physically, mentally, spiritually. I felt small, unworthy, forgotten then, just as the darkness threatened to take me. Boom, the bed exploded, wood splintered. Something howled. And Dave was there, my monster. He didn't crawl out. He launched out, roaring like a demon freight train. You don't touch my kid, you crazy coat rack. The creature turned, but Dave was already on it. Fangs out, claws flashing. They hit the wall so hard plaster rained from the ceiling. Screams, shrieks, howls. I didn't know whose voice was whose or which was worse. You dry-cleaned parasite, Davesna rolled. They fought like titans, the air warped around them. The hunger twisted and cracked like a broken insect, trying to slip past Dave. But he wouldn't let up. I'd never seen anything like it. It wasn't just a fight. It was war, ancient, cosmic. Dave bit down hard on what might have been a shoulder and hurled the thing backward. The closet yawned wide like it was hungry too. Back in your hole, he slammed the door shut with a roar that shook the room. Shadow poured from his mouth, crawling over the closet like a living chain. Symbols I couldn't understand burned against the wood. The air was still. Dave collapsed to one knee. I stared, shaking. You saved me. He looked up. That's kind of my job, remember? What was that thing? I asked. He winced, wiping black ooze off his chin. He calls himself the Hunger. He used to be like me, a protector. Then he got hungry, started feeding on shame instead of stopping it. I looked down. He showed Emmy things I thought they were real. He shows you the worst version of the truth, Dave said gently, the one you're already scared of. But it's not real, kid. He only has power if you believe you deserve it. I let out a shaky breath. Dave stood slowly, cracking his spine. You should eat something. Maybe call your mom. Clean up that hoodie. The more balanced you get, the weaker he becomes. And what about you? He smirked, already crawling back under the broken bed frame. I'll be here, watching, mocking your playlist choices. Thanks, Dave. Done. Tea get mushy. I still eat socks. Then he was gone. I stared at the sealed closet door. Until dawn, the silence returned, but it didn't feel empty this time. Good night, Dave, I whispered from the shadows. And loyal, sweet dreams, kid. Part 3. Watchers. We moved out to the country after Ellie was born. Big yard, quiet nights, space to breathe. The kind of place where nothing feels haunted until the silence set. Les in, until the shadows at the edge of your vision get a little too still. Our new house had a lot of that. Ellie's room was bigger than anything I had growing up. Toys neatly -1 on the shelves, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, a closet twice as deep as it needed to be. She insisted on keeping the light off when she slept. Big girls don't need night lights, she told me, brave as ever. That night I'd tucked her in like usual, a kiss on the forehead, the soft rustle of her favorite blanket. She smiled at me, wide and sleepy, and said, I'm fine. Daddy, promise. So I turned off the light, and I left. But around 9:47 p.m., I heard something. The unmistakable sound of silence being interrupted, a shift, a creak. Like the room itself took a breath, I stood outside her door and listened. From inside, a voice, small and curious. Is someone there? I froze. Another sound, low and grumbly, almost annoyed. About time you noticed. I opened the door just a crack, enough to watch without being seen. She wasn't scared. Not really, not yet. I watched her lean over the bed, wide-eyed. I remembered that feeling, the tangle of fear and curiosity, the invisible line between childlike wonder and something far older. Then he emerged. Not Dave, someone else. This one was shorter, rounder, like someone had drawn a monster using Sidua LK chalk and then brought it to life after rolling it in lint. Big eyes, lopsided horns, claws too long for comfort. But there was no menace in the way he moved, just weariness. Name's C. Rum, he said, hauling himself up. Watcher. Underbed division. Tier 2. Ellie didn't scream. She blinked. Crum scratched behind one ear with a croaked talon and grunted, "You're an OT gonna freak out. I'm thinking about it," she said, fair. And just like that, I knew she was going to be okay. But then the air changed. I felt it even from the hallway hem, the closet, the heat, the weight. That same sick pressure I hadn't felt in years. My skin grew cold. Crum turned to the closet and pointed. "Because something else is here," he told her. She followed his gaze. The closet door was open just enough to peer into the darkness. Shadows bled from it like smoke in reverse. I saw the way her shoulders tensed, the tiny tremble in her lip. I knew what she was seeing. What she was feeling. I wanted to burst in, to scoop her up and slam that door shut myself. But I didn't. Because Crum stepped between her and the dark. He wasn't Big Lick. He didn't have fangs or fury or righteous rage, but he stood tall, well, tallish. His fur bristled, his claws flexed. He stood, and that was enough. From the closet came a long W. At creak, something reached out, a limb, pale and searching. Crum didn't flinch. "Nope," he muttered, low and firm. "Not tonight, twig boy," with a roar that didn't them. At his size, Crum slammed the closet door shut. The shadows recoiled, the crack sealed. Silence returned. Ellie looked up at him. "Why die? Is it gone?" "For now," he said, turning back toward H. But I'm not." She smiled. "Thank you." He shrugged like it was no big deal, "just doing my job." Then he glanced toward the floor and scratched behind his ear again. "You're dead. Lucas, he had one of us too. Tough guy named Dave, still around. Talks about him sometimes. You too." Ellie giggled. "Daddy used to tell me stories about him." Crum gave a crooked little smile. "Well, guess now you've got one too." Then, like it was the most normal thing in the world, he crawled back under her bed and vanished into the dark. I waited until her breathing slowed, until I heard her whisper, "Good night, Crum." And from under the bed came a low, rumbling reply, "Good night, Ellie, sweet dreams." I stood outside the door, hand on the frame, heart full. My daughter had her own monster now, and she was going to be just fine. Story for my next trick. I need a volunteer for my next trick. "I will need a volunteer," the magician asked as he walked across the stage. The spotlight focus set on the oblong box at center stage. Smiling, he looked out past the bright spotlight to see if anyone had volunteered, but he did not see a single person with their hand up. "I just need one person to have the courage to come forward." He spoke into his microphone. Behind him was his poster set on a tripod, making the magnificent. "Chris, we have someone." Mandy, the stage manager, signaled to him. We have a volunteer." He smiled, turning. He waved to the young lady standing next to Mandy. After some hesitation, she walked out on stage. "Wonderful. And what is your name?" "Me. SS. Alma," she answered as her face turned red. "Alma, I am so happy to have you volunteer for this. Have you ever volunteered for a magic trick before?" "No." She speaks into T. He microphone, but her voice can barely be heard even with the mic. "Alma, just relax." "All right." Making opens the oblong box. "I want you to come in, lay down in my magic box. You will lie on your back." "All right." She nods her head. "After you enter this magic box, I will cut you in half, he explains as he holds up shiny slab of metal. Will it hurt? She asks as she takes a step back, wishing she had not volunteered. Not one bit, he shakes his head. There is a spattering of applause. Now, let me help you in. Alma takes his hand and lies down on her back. Once she is in the box, Mekong puts the sides down and locks them in place. He takes the piece of shiny metal, holding it up so the audience can see it. There is a slot in the box. Are you comfortable? He asks. Alma nods with a smile. Mekong takes the metal hand, forces it down in the slot about midway where her stomach would be. There is a slight gurgling noise, but Mekong faces the audience and bows. There is a gasp as Mandy runs out on stage. Turning around, Mekong sees a pool of blood gathering beneath the box that is getting larger by the second. When he looks at Alma, he sees her. Brown eyes have glazed over and realizes his alarm. Clock sounds and he sits up in his bed. Looking around his cluttered room, Jasper Cladifan is relieved that the horror was just a dream this time. He gets up and heads into the bathroom to take a shower, but he still feels the shock of seeing Alma lying dead in the box, cut in two. His magic books that he has been studying for the past 9 months are crammed on top of his desk. He had been reading one of them last night when he decided to go to bed. Hey, James, it's time to get up, you loser. His older sister May sticks her head into his empty room. There is no sisterly love in her. She moved back in with her parents and brother after her marriage failed. She sees her brother as another living soul who has been put on the earth to make her life unbearable. What is all this crap? She sees the books on his desk and picks up one of them, Dark Arts for Dummies. She shakes her head despondently. He is such a creep. What the hell are you doing? In my room, May, he walks in with a towel wrapped around him. What are you doing with all this crap? She holds up the book she was flipping through. Leave my stuff alone. He grabs the book from her hands. Are you practicing satanic rituals? Her smile is wicked and accusatory. No, I am telling Mom, May threatens. So she and Dad know I want to be a magician. I have a name. He raises an eyebrow. What is it? She begs him for the poop. Mekong the Magnificent. He says with a flourish. She burst out laughing. Are you kidding me, Mekong? That is rich. Hey, it's who I want to be when I get a booking, he shrugs. Are you serious? No, and he is going to pay you to do magic. She laughs. Magic is lame. You used to like magic. He taunts her. You read all the books about happily ever after. I read the Grimm brothers, and let me tell you, they were as grim as you can imagine. She shakes her head. You are my brother, my only sibling, and I want to make sure you won't go making a fool of yourself and embarrass me. How can I embarrass you? Jasper tilts his head, knowing his sister is just trying to get under his skin. My friends will ask me, is that your geeky brother? And I will have to say yes, and they will tell me how lame my only sibling is. She says sarcastically, why don't you move out? Jasper is becoming very irritated. You are almost 30. I am 28, I'll have you know. She is tempted to slap him, but she restrains herself. I am looking into places uptown, but the rent is just too expensive. Do you still work at the burger place? Yes. As a matter of fact, I do, and I've been promoted to assistant night shift manager. She snaps. Minimum wage won't pay for a place. Jasper baits her. I got a couple of my friends from high school who are willing to go in on an apartment with me, smartass. Listen, May, don't make fun of my dream and I won't bust you chops on your dream. Jasper closes the door and drops his towel so he can get dressed. The Ritz nightclub is located in a rough neighborhood, but people line up the door an hour before the doors open. Nightly entertainment includes some local talent, but every now and then a studio musician who is back a rock star will appear claiming to have played with Coldplay or Guns N' Roses. But every Wednesday night they have open microphone where amateurs can come and try out our acts. Jasper comes and watches, hoping to get up the nerve to try out some of his magic tricks. He has one where breaks to eggs in his magic hat, then waves his one over the hat before putting it on top of his head. The trick is the top of the hat moves. He lets the raw eggs escape into a hidden container under his top hat, so when he put the hat on his head, the eggs won't ooze on his face. The first time he tried it, the eggs ran down his face anyway, and everyone laughed. "Hey kid, you got some egg on your face," someone called from the audience. He spent his time reading about how to do the big tricks. When he read a biography of Harry Houdini, he was inspired to do some escape magic. But when he put the trick handcuffs on, he had to have one of his buddies use an electric shot to get his hands free. After he graduated from high school, he enrolled in the community college in a course about seance and fortune-telling. His first seance freaked him out because there were strange things that happened. "What happened?" Professor Adlin asked him when Jasper went to him for advice. "This apparition appeared," he explained. "What did he look like?" Professor Adlin asked, half listening. His face was covered with sores, and he spoke of a horrible disease he contracted that eventually killed him. Alden leaned forward on his desk. "You have the power, Mr. Cladifan. In my years of teaching the dark arts, I rarely come across a student with a gift. It doesn't feel like a gift," Jasper whined. "It is, and if you take the time to develop your gift, you will become a powerful wizard." He smiled. "I don't want to be a wizard." Jasper rolled his eyes. "You am. I not have a choice in the matter." Professor Alden purred with delight. "We must be aware that magic comes from the dark side. It was once part of the forbidden fruit in the garden. As soon as the fruit was tasted, the forbidden secrets were released. What is?" Professor told him creeped him out. He began having nightmares. The blood would flow from the hapless volunteer. He would wake up struggling to breathe. "Hello?" Jasper answered his cell phone. "Yeah? Is this Jasper Cladifan?" The voice asked. "Yeah. Who's this?" Jasper asked as he sat at the foot of his unmade bed. "I'm Mario Castellani from the Ritz nightclub," he replied in a monotone. But when Jasper heard Ritz nightclub, his heart began to race. "I was wondering if you could be at open mic this Wednesday." "Yes, sir." Jasper stood up at attention. "Great." Mario chuckled. "You are a musician, right?" "No, sir. I am a magician." His voice was shaking just like the rest of him. "Whatever," Mario snapped. "Just be there at 7 o'clock Wednesday evening." "I will be there," Jasper said as Mario hung up. Suddenly it seemed his knees would no longer support him. He fell on his mattress. "Oh my God." May heard him cry out in ecstasy, poking her head into his to find out what he was up to. "Whatcha doing?" I am going to be doing Macon the Magnifi. Sent this Wednesday night at the Ritz Night Club, he said with a smile. Oh no, that's my hangout, dweeb. She was horrified that he was going to open mic night. Her friends love to go and make fun of the P.O. player who actually thought they had talent. If one of her friends found out Macon the Magnificent was actually her brother, she'd never live it down. I'll be there. Great. Glad you can make it. He sat up. No, I don't want you to be there. She made a face as if the odor in his room was overwhelming. The next day she flooded social media with posts about the poor quality of her brother's magic act. With the flood of precautionary posts came a flood of reactions, thanking her for the fair warning. Jasper got some of the fallout, however, as his page was inundated with negative posts that were cruel and hateful. What did you do? He asked May while she was on her laptop computer. I simply told the truth, and the truth is, U.S. Hock, she said without looking up at his washed-out facial expression. You had no right to post those hateful posts. He slapped the table where she was working on her computer. He knew she was taking online courses to get her dental hygienist certificate. He closed her laptop before she could react. All his life, May had bullied him because, as she told him, she was older and smarter. This was the final straw as far as he was concerned. What did you do that for? She screamed. I was almost finished with that assignment, and now I have to do it all over again. I hate you, and I hate you, he said without raising his voice. I want to do magic on stage, and you ruined it. Magic is lame, but you are a lamer. She was seething in anger. What she didn't know was he was also extremely angry, but his anger had a slow burn. He would go up to his room and come up with a scheme to get even with his older sister, who through her whole life was to make his life a living hell at times. When he built a birdhouse for a school project, she put in a cherry bomb and blew his project into kindling. She was the one who found his stash of dirty magazines under his mattress and turned the magazines into her parents. It was she who met with his potential prom date to give the poor girl the dirt on her brother. After May got through with all of the dirt tea, the girl called Jasper to tell him she didn't want to go to the prom with him. At every turn, it was May who made his life miserable. All he had to do was get a decent audience, and he'd be able to get her out of his life. He thought he'd have a shot on Wednesday at open mic at Ritz Night Club, but now that had become a joke as he scanned through his timeline. You are such a loser. I cannot believe you are even trying to do this. If I were you, I'd dig a hole and bury myself. Are you for real? You will be the biggest flop of all time. How on earth do you belly? If you have talent. This is a joke, right? The more he scrolled, the worse the comments got. Tears flooded his eyes. He would have to get revenge on her. But how? That night he had the dream of asking for a volunteer from the audience, placing his volunteer into his box. He would insert the piece of metal, and once again it would produce the gory effect he dreaded. He sat up in bed. His eyes were wide as an evil smile crossed his face. The next day he spent the entire day in the garage. First he worked to make his box inescapable using a system of springs and hinges that would lock someone into the box with absolutely no way to get free. Snap, bang. The box shut tight, allowing so the person inside would have no means to get out once the box was locked. Then Jasper sharpened the separator so that it was as sharp as a sword. He grabbed the apparatus by the handles, put it into the slot, and let go of the separator. Bang, it slid, contacting the bottom of T. He boxed without any resistance. He had prepared his device just like he had in his nightmare when he cut Alma in half. He would remove May's bloody remains from his box and place each piece of her in the furnace, and then he would take the hose and wash off her blood, which would be soaked up by the dirt floor. When everything was in place, Jasper took a step back as he went through the entire act. In his mind, just like his nightmare of Alma, May wouldn't have a chance, he smiled, satisfied that it all go according to his plan. May, do you think my magic tricks are a ruse? Jasper asked as she sat with her laptop. Yes, I do, she answered. Now leave me alone so I can finish this assignment. I was wondering if you could do me a favor. He tilted his head as he leaned against the table where she was working on her assignment. What? She said through her clenched teeth. I was wondering if you'd like to prove to me once and for all that my magic is fake. Would you leave me alone if I say yes? Absolutely, he nodded. All right, let's get this over with. She rolled her eyes. I have. He had set up in the garage, he told her. Fine. She stood up, but you'd better leave me alone for the rest of the evening. I promise. He held up his hand in their sworn oath. This is going to be the dumbest thing I've done all week. She followed him to the garage. She opened the door and saw the box resting on some folding chairs. I was wrong. This will be the dumbest thing I have ever done, and I've set the bar very high. Have a seat. He held out his hand to the only folding chair to sit in inside the entire garage. Are you serious? She shook her head. You're not going to do strange things to me, are you? Absolutely not. He shook his head as he walked over to the hook where he had his coat and cape hanging on a hook. I must practice this if I'm ever to get it right. Good luck with that. She rolled her eyes again. Jasper cleared his throat and looked at his sister. Ladies and gentlemen, he waved his wand as she shook her head. You are so pathetic, she uttered. I am Macon the Magnificent. And for my next trick, I will need a volunteer. Story 5, Last Kiss, I said as I stroked his gorgeous black hair, tucking away a piece behind his ear. I always loved how the continuous flow of after curl lay on my chest. It's these moments in life that bring me to tears. The peace, the stillness, the memories. We met while I was on vacation renting a cabin in the foothills of the Rockies. Fall was turning to winter, and the leaves had all died off. Not many choose to vacation during that time, which, to me, is the perfect time to seclude yourself in nature, the moment before everything falls asleep. It's a rare but beautiful moment to witness. He probably had a paper he needed to finish or a novel to write, and took the opportunity of the off-season to snag a cabin near mine. I had thought I was alone that weekend until one morning my ritual was interrupted by a hiker passing through my woods. He had caught my eye immediately, and I had to have him. I was not very outgoing then, so I chose to watch him in silent observation, noting how his gait showed off his long legs and slender torso. The little bit he was visible on the trail was all I needed to crave him. I resolved to attempt to speak with him if I saw him again, which happened to be the next morning. I had sat at the kitchen table anxiously, watching for my handsome stranger to hike by. The hours ticked on. but I didn't abandon my post. I needed to see him again. Finally, there he was. He had paused right between two large pines, allowing him into my sight. I got up slowly and headed to the door. Upon opening it, his eyes lit up in surprise, seeing my presence on the porch. An awkward smile from afar and a simple wave let me know I could approach. I took the opportunity. I made my way through the tall, dying grass, feeling the crisp late fall air through my cardigan. Pulling it tighter, it gave me both warmth and courage to meet my mysterious neighbor. He greeted me with a warm smile and hello. Hey, thought I was alone this weekend? Liking the trails? I asked. Yeah, pretty impressive views. Thought I'd hit this one again to get more pics. I come back here often, too. Just thought I'd let you know I was here in case you need anything. I'm Bella. I let my eyes fall briefly, then back to his. Peter. Nice to meet you. We stood there for a minute, hanging in time together. Well, I guess I should get on with a hike before it starts to get dark. Nice to meet you, Bella. You too, Peter. I gave a slight wave and turned to go back to my cabin, electricity coursing through my body. He was the one. I could feel it. The way he looked at me told me all I needed to know. I had to meet him again. After our brief meet cute, I couldn't think about anything else. His image haunted my eyes when I closed them. I could see every part of his face in fine detail. The way a single line of sweat slowly built on his right temple before falling below his chin. Obviously, from the rough terrain of the trail, I could still smell his perspiration, mixed with the decay of the leaves on the path. My brain traced the outline of his jaw to the slight dimple of his left cheek. I imagined what it would be like to be in his arms, drinking up the warmth of his body. I could see my fingers entangled with his, a strong squeeze to let him know I was there. My lips could feel the impressions on his skin that my kisses would leave on his neck. I needed him. I promised myself he would be mine. A few days later, just before I was to depart, I saw him again. This time he was coming to my cabin door. I chose to let him knock rather than rush to open it. By his third knock, I opened with a casual, Hey, I was getting ready to pack up my stuff and realized I had forgotten duct tape. Any chance you might have some? It was the sweetest proposal, and of course I knew that was his way of telling me he was mine. Of course, come in. I held the door open and allowed him and shutting it behind him, he looked around and nodded. Looks like the cabins are all the same, yep, but I like this one best. Just something about it keeps me coming back every year. You come here yearly. Yes, I just find this place to have all I need to find peace. Sometimes we just need a place where we can be ourselves without judgment. I completely agree. You leaving us. Oh, and too, I was going to, but recently decided to stay a few more days. It's so hard to leave sometimes. I get that. I will probably be back too. Great trails around here. There are, and many are seldom traveled. So it makes for a very unique experience. Really, I'll have to do more research. The tape. Oh, yes, I'll be right back. I went to my room and grabbed the tape and the syringe. I inserted it in the vial and pulled back on the plunger. The clear liquid always seemed to sparkle a bit in my eyes like the sparkle of one's last tear. With the tape in one hand and a syringe in the other, I went back to the entryway. Thanks, he said, and as he grabbed for the tape, I inserted the needle in his neck. An instant look of shock and dread hooded his face. It never takes long for the drugs to have an effect. He tried to speak, but only stammered. I gently guided him to the rustic couch nearby, being sure to cradle his head as he slumped into the cushions. I knew I only had a few minutes to watch the life drain from his dark brown eyes, so I lay next to him like I did to the others before, resting his head on my chest, feeling the warmth of his slow, rich eddy. In breath, there was always beauty in being the last to lay with someone I loved this moment. So much peace. I gave him his last kiss, I said as I stroked his gorgeous black hair, tucking away a piece behind his ear. Story 6. Wednesday's child is full of woe. They sat in the dirt behind the house. 7 small bodies arranged in a rough circle around the single wooden car. The toy had been handed down through cousins, its wheels held in place by nails that flash silver beneath flaking yellow paint. Monday pushed it first, leaving a neat pair of tracks across the dry soil. Tuesday took tea after him. Each child claimed their turn with the blunt certainty toddlers have, their movements clumsy, their breath loud with excitement. Wednesday watched from the far edge, hands idle on her knees. A mild grit clung to her palms where the dirt had started to cake, the texture dry enough to sting. When it became clear no one would offer her a turn, out of boredom or sadness, or both, she picked up a thin stick and studied it. The point was ragged, splintered from whatever branch it had once been. She pressed it against her ear, nudged it inward, and felt the membrane resist before giving way. The sound inside her skull was soft and wet, followed by a pressure shift that made the world tilt. Pain arrived seconds later, a clean and hot throb. Blood crept down her neck in a warm thread. Thursday noticed first and scrambled to his feet, stumbling as he ran to get help. Sunday stayed where he was, leaning closer so his shadow fell across her shoulder. He icked his tongue the way adults do when pretending disappointment, his voice pitched with an older child's smugness. He told her it was her own fault, that she should have waited, that crying wouldn't fix anything. She did not cry. She sat very still, the stick resting in the dust. The children had larger bodies now. The 7 of them stood at the lip of the old battlement, a slab of concrete mottled with lichen, and the shallow pits left by long-forgotten explosives. The drop beneath was steep enough that the air carried a faint mineral cold, the smell of wet stone rising from heat-shaded ground below. Sunday tested the edge with the tip of his shoe, then leapt without hesitation. His landing sent up a dull puff of dust, and he straightened with a triumphant grin. Monday and Tuesday followed, their bodies thin and quick, arms slicing the air as they hurled themselves below. The thuds of their landings traveled upward. Wednesday stood back from the ridge. The H8 made her frightened. She felt the faint vibration of Tuesday's whoop echoing upward. Thursday lingered beside her, his voice dropped to a soft register. He told her she was the only rel, and no one expected her to jump. She could stay where she was. She could watch. She didn't have to follow them. Sunday overheard. He climbed back up the slope with a flush of irritation across his cheeks. He called her pathetic in a tone meant to wound, loud enough that the others turned to look. He asked if she wanted to be the weak one forever. Wednesday felt the pressure behind her ribs again, that familiar internal drop. She stepped forward, toes touching the crumbled lip of the battlement. The fall was shorter than she imagined, yet the moment of impact boomed through her arm with a hot, wet crack. She lay curled on one side. The broken bone set pulses of bright pain along her elbow and shoulder, each one rising like a wave and breaking for she could brace. Thursday reached her first. He knelt and pulled her to his chest, his hands careful as he steadied her head. Friday sprinted up the bank toward the path, shouting for Anyon. He who might hear. Wednesday pressed her face into the fabric of Thursday's shirt, hiding her tears. Their bodies grew larger still. The chapel was at the farthest edge of the property. It doubled as the schoolhouse, a bell rope frayed where countless hands had pulled it after chores. Thursday asked Wednesday to meet him behind the chapel. She found him near the rear wall where the grass grew taller. His posture was restless, shoulders tight, fingers pulling at the hem of his shirt. He spoke in a rush. He said he wanted to run away. He said Friday and Saturday I would come with them. He said they could go anywhere else and never touch another chore on this land again. The words tumbled from him, warm with hope and desperation. She opened her mouth to answer, but he stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of his breath. His lips pressed against hers, unsure and clumsy, the contact soft at first before he adjusted awkwardly. Her heart thudded. Once, then again, the kiss held no grace. Only two inexperienced mouths learning shape and pressure. A twig snapped. The sound cut through the quiet like a small fracture. She turned and saw them at the corner of the chapel. Sunday in front, Monday and Tuesday crowding behind him. Their expressions were wide with amusement, eyes sharp with interest. Sunday mimicked the shape of the kiss, exaggerated and cruel. Monday elbowed Tuesday. Laughter rose. Wednesday tried to step back, but Sunday moved quickly. He shoved her chest with both hands. The ground was soft from last night's rain, and she slid into the mud, her palms sinking deep into the cold sludge. Thursday shouted her name and swung at Sunday with a wild, unpracticed punch. He barely made contact before Monday and Tuesday seized his arms. They pinned him with an ease that made Wednesday's stomach turn. Sunday struck him once, the punch landing square against his stomach. He struck him again, the rhythm built, dull impacts carrying through the air like someone knocking on a hollow wall. Thursday's legs buckled, but Monday and Tuesday held him upright. Sunday told Wednesday to watch. His voice was calm, almost bored, as if this were another chore to complete. She tried to rise, but the mud held her hands, thick and cold between her fingers. The chapel wall cast a long shadow over them, the building silent as Thursday's breath grew labored beneath the repetition of Sunday's fists. Their bodies fully grown now, as Wednesday pushed Thursday along the narrow path. The wheelchair rattled over stones that had worked themselves free from the earth, each vibration passing through the frame. He asked again whether she was sure. She told him yes. She told him today was the day. Across the field, the chapel stood dressed in white bunting. Sunday was to be ordained, the culmination of years spent shaping himself into something righteous. Wednesday had watched him do it, had watched how quickly righteousness became a weapon. Friday had not lived long enough to see this morning. Sunday had poured drink for all of them in those early, our years a cruel sort of hazing. Friday's body had failed before dawn, and none of them spoke of it now. Saturday had run soon after, vanishing down the road with nothing but a small canvas bag. Wednesday remembered watching his figure shrink against the horizon, knowing she'd never see him again. She helped Thursday into the passenger seat of the work truck, lifting his weight. With a careful grip beneath his arms, he settled into place and watched her load the chair and a small bag of clothes into the back. He spoke of marriage then. He had imagined vows spoken under a sky that was theirs alone. She squeezed his hand. She returned to her room for the last of her things, knowing Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday would be occupied at the chapel, busy reading the wise ceremony. When she turned to leave, Sunday filled the doorway. His shadow swallowed the narrow space. His tone was calm as he explained his plan. She would be his wife before sundown. She would carry children for the good of the community. Her life was already decided. He stepped forward and gripped her face with one broad hand, squeezing her jaw until her teeth tapped together. She felt the warmth of his palm, the press of his thumb against her cheekbone. She did not flinch. She reached instead for the pair knife tucked deep within her apron pocket. She pleed her wrist and drove it into the soft place. Beneath his ribs, the sound he made was sharp, a broken inhale. She pulled free and ran. The gasoline canister sat in the corner of the truck bed. She snatched it up, splashed its contents along the dry boards of the house, and struck a match. The flames caught fast, hungry as they climbed the old wood. Smoke curled into the skies. She climbed into the truck beside Thursday without a word. In the rearview mirror, Monday and Tuesday raced toward the inferno, their figures frantic. Sunday's screams chased the wind. Sunday's child grew harsh with pride. Monday's child stood at his side. Tuesday's child learned cruelty's game. Wednesday's child bore all their blame. Thursday's child held love so small. Friday's child took one last fall. Saturday's child ran far from sight, and none of them were raised in light. Story 7 Wooden Velvet Goodbye. I intended to call it back before I boarded the train. At my steps, quicker than my tongue, allowed me no such satisfaction. Instead, I carry the word in my mind, not allowing it to sink into my heart, already heavy with the other words I did allow to sprout upon his weighted ears. My eyes, blurry by the thought, linger to my hands, to which I intend to shift my weight. I should be pulled by the grip of my two pieces of luggage, each a soft ebony wood, detailed with rich red velvet, my favorite colors, a specially designed gift from my father for my birthday, carved with my initials and all, designed and exported them. Just before he passed, it seemed like he knew I would have to travel back to him soon. They are my final chains to him, a weight I will happily be burdened by. But when I look down for them, I find nothing in my clutch except for my fingernails, dug deeply into my skin. I recall placing them down for one final spin in Leo's arms, a moment in which the world felt too fast to breathe, care, or think. I suppose such ambitions, or lack thereof, must have carried from the days that riddled me as he gently placed me back down upon the concrete. Oh, I think, covering my mouth with my palm without the perfectly smooth ebony. Would to hold my hands have become sweaty and salty upon my lips. Oh, I hope my Leo has realized and will send them to me. A feeling sinks in my stomach, one of both self-pity to the notion that I have abandoned my father's final gift to me intended for this very travel, and anxiety, knowing I am to travel and arrive at my destination without anything to get by. I cannot decide which makes me more exposed as the train pinches along the track, stuttering me to the first seat across from the door. I am surprised I managed to stand for so long prior, though I suppose my heavy heart, mind, spirit, and blackened, tarred conscience would give any girl sturdy feet. I press my black dress down over my knees, then cross my feet over. With no suitcase, my hands feel loose, as if they may fall off if I do not clutch them to the bustle of my skirt. So I do, paying no mind to the soreness in my palms inflicted by my chained fingernails mere moments ago, without the peaks of velvet between the ebony cage to peer upon, nor the perfect etchings of my initials to dote upon. My eyes steady upon the train door, with no windows, no light shines on this sunny day. I squint to ensure myself a door even exists, and once I can see the thin line of the mechanics, I shut my eyes entirely, preferring the dream of my sunny day with Leo to this hollow truth. We stand outside the station, both pieces of luggage in his hands. Thoughtfully, my dear offered to carry it from the car, hesitant, due to the very perplexities I find myself in now. I had assured him I could carry it, but he assured me I did not have to. You should not have to worry about your things, not what are, and you have such a trip ahead of you. But, darling, I insisted, reaching for the bags as he cleverly dodged them. I do not mind. I'd rather be certain I have everything in order. Stress keeps my heart beating. He frowned, swinging my luggage behind his back, then kissing me on the forehead. You keep my heart beating. What am I to do without you? Blushing, I give in to his whim. Reaching for his tanned face, I suppose you will just have to keep me fondly in your heart. I link my arm in his, giving one more glance to ensure he has not dropped the luggage in his affection. Then, satisfied, we walk into the bustle of the station, bidding the brights and one final goodbye. No, I pout, opening my eyes to stare back at the weak outline of the door. No, I did not give the sun a proper goodbye. I was in so much of a rush that I only cared for the human farewells. Oh, how I will miss you, my son. I turned to look down the car, hoping to find a window to gaze out of and give the sun a proper goodbye. But before I can, I make unexpected eyes with a young woman holding a practically newborn baby. The baby rests, the eyelids folded over with the most voluminous lash. A smile upon its pale face. The woman's eyes are wide open, and her lips are thinly pursed. How do you do? I ask, hoping to supplement true sunshine with a conversation with a fellow woman. It has been too long since my marriage that I have had such opportunities to socialize. Leo and I have also been trying for a child for so long. I expect this woman, comfortable enough travel with such a young, delicate baby, should have some entrancing guidances. The woman shakes her head, lips still pursed, her eyes still wide. She hisses. We should let her rest in peace, she whispers, gently placing the baby down in a bassinet beside her. I had not noticed before It is a soft, pale wood on the outside, and a plush pink decorated with lace and sigh. After a final look at her baby, she allows her pursed lips to fold into a half-smile. Such a young beauty, she says, inching closer to me, gliding her red-gloved finger through my dark hair. What is a thing like you doing on a train like this? I am visiting my father, or I suppose. Oh well, he has just passed. I missed the funeral due to illness, but I received word that there is a lovely burial site. If I should like to visit, I intend to visit his grave, I mean. She pouts. Oh, you poor dear. So much loss to your family, you must be ridden why? Guilt, I nod, though I am unsure why. My sickness is surely valid for my absence. Surely my father and surely my family would understand. Where are you off to? I interject her wandering eyes and my wandering thoughts. Oh, well, I'm not sure I know. My husband bought our tickets, but I am told my stop is coming soon. She rises from the seat. Maybe we will end up in the same spot, or perhaps, if we all get separated, could I ask that a young woman, so full of whim, care for my baby? I bunch my fingers through my skirt again. Surely you will not get separated, Fro. Am your baby, her eyes still wide and empty, drop her shoes, then to mine, then to my eyes, heavy and teary-eyed. You have such good faith in the world. What a marvelously hopeful light you shine upon the world. With the whistle of a train stop, a conductor approaches, pointing to the door. I squint to see that it has in fact opened. The world, strangely darkened outside, calls for me to peer into a crowd I can hear but not see. But when I try, the conductor shakes his head, pulling me back against my seat. This is not your stop, dear. Oh, yes, I know, I smile, dropping the bushel of my skirt. But is this the mother's stop? The conductor skews his head. What mother? And when I turn my head, the mother, I have a faint memory of red velvet caressing a deep brown. There was someone here, I am certain. Red and ebony, I whisper into my hand. The conductor smiles. Your luggage, yes, he smile. Yes, we received word. Your family will have it for you when you arrive. I smile, closing my eyes again. Thank you. I am uncertain of his response as I fall into a lovely slumber. When I awaken, I do not awaken at all. I am stuck in a daydream where Leo sits beside me, holding my luggage. My darling, he says, placing the luggage between us and leaning over to give me a kiss. Oh, I miss you already. His eyes have welled with tears, but he dares not cry. I have never seen my darling somber, even when I was so ill, ridden by the self-pity and loathing of missing my father's final resting eve, and when I was cruel and tempered by the coldness of the world and the hotness of my anger, he stayed by my side with a smile. Oh, my dearest, I smile, kissing his salty lips. Do not cry, I should have come with you, he says with trembled lips. I clear his tears away, then kiss him again. When our lips separate, I am eager to beg him to join me on my journey, to meet me a few stops ahead, but when I open my mouth, my heart beats upon my tongue. No, I screeched, this is a journey you need not yet make. It is a waste of the precious time you have. He shakes his head. For what? My work, my passions, my savings, why, it all means nothing without you beside me. My dearest, we will see each other again soon. Yes, Leo asks. Miles, drearily, picking up the luggage and kneeling before me, I will count the days. Do not rush them, my dear. I kiss his forehead. His hair smells like soot, and when I release my lips, I find them coated in a dark ash. We are only one train ride away. He steadies his grip on my luggage. I love you. Before I can respond, the train hits a bump on the track, and I bounce forward in the SE. After my head smacks my knees, I look up to find my dearest gone, staring at my empty hands. I do not even notice the stranger approach me, sliding into the seat right beside mine. How do you do? A gruff voice says, turning his legs so that they touch mine. Startled, I put my hands to my lips. When I peer over them, I see an older gentleman with deep brown eyes. He wears a suit of tweed and a tie of cranberry. Thick-rimmed glasses sit on the tip of his nose, so close to falling off. I must fight every instinct not to push them back. I am well, I say hesitantly, crossing my legs over each other. How do you do? White, no one has ever asked me that, he says, licking his lips and removing his cap. Ever, I say, astonished. Surely not ever? Oh, well, not on this train, he says, benching his nose and tipping his glasses. Even further, my eyes light up, and he must notice, because he takes advantage, moving closer to me. You've boarded THIS train before? Why, yes, I've been up and down the line so many times I suppose I never knew what the world wants from me, so I just keep trying. Why, that's wonderful. I clap my hands together. Could you tell me if there is a window? Oh, how I'd love to see the sun. Wouldn't we all? The man winks, just as the conductor walks in. Mr. Morrison, the man yells, blowing a whistle between his fingers. We told you you are not permitted into this car. Oh, I say, jumping forward, intending to stand, but finding my crossed legs too confused to try. He's no bother. Not yet, miss. The conductor shakes his head. But now that he has stolen your ticket. My ticket, I gasp. He does not have. But when I check the front pocket of my coat, I find my ticket gone. Oh, dear sir, that is very unkind, Mr. Morrison laughs, handing my ticket back to me. These young women, he says, turning to the conductor. They are just too odd for this world, aren't they? The conductor shakes his head. Or perhaps you are just too cruel. Apologies, miss, the conductor says, grabbing the old man's hand, dragging him out of the cart. Get some rest. Your stop will be very soon. And as if on command, my eyes become heavy and my crossed legs unwind as my torso drops to the soft red seats of the train. I do not dream of my Leo. In fact, I dream of nothing but darkness, strangely comforting. I sit in the empty, a smile on my face, but the more I sit, the more my eyes adjust. When I look just a little closer, I see that thin line of the drain door. Curious and my ambitions wild, I jump up, racing for the door, but just as I get close enough, the door pulls away. Furious in a way of purpose, I continue to race after the door, each time I lose it, pushing me a little closer. With a primal scream, I extend my hand, and there, just by my fingertips, I am able to touch that thin line, and when I do, the door spins, erupting the dark world in a bright light. As my eyes blacken, and the world seems like pointillism, I slowly piece together that before me is a mirror, reflecting my rapid blinking and panting lips. Finally settled upon my own eyes, I come to realize I am paler than usual. My lips are black like ash, and my eyes are drooping. My skin feels detached from my body, as if I could step out of it like a fine-tailored gown. My gown. I peer down further still, and there, within the center of my chest, a pool of dark blood. I stumble backwards in horror, but the mirror moves. As closer, I feel my dress, and when I release my hand from it, it is coated in thick red. I wipe my hand through my hair, then down my face, trying but failing to pull my face away from the mirror. The whistle blows. My eyes peel open, and startled by the red of the seat, I sit up with such urgency. The conductor stumbles backwards. "Missed," he says with a smile. "This is your stop. Do not fret about the journey. I am certain you will have a lovely time here." He ushers me to the door, which no longer appears so dark, so impossible. Now it is boarded with a ring of bright white light. "Go on," he ushers me, tapping a button on the side of the door, revealing a bright light. And before the second whistle can blow, my lips move quicker than my feet as I stare at the blinding white light. "Hello, hello, my beautiful daughter. Thank you for sending my luggage."